Hey, what's up guys, it's the Professor here. Before we get into the video, which I'm sure you guys are anxious to get into, XD, I'm going to put up a link on the screen and in the description for my Discord. Basically, there's going to be a place to talk about stuff and play games with each other and, usual stuff. So that'll be on the screen and in the description, and without further ado, let's continue. So, basically what I want to talk about today was, my love-hate relationship with Marvel movies. And I'm going to run through a few different points and then talk about something else, some other thing involved with the movies. But my first point I really feel with these movies is that, well, let me say this first. I do like mindless shit from time to time, like mindless, oh, bad guys fighting, big explosions, boom boom pow, all that fucking nonsense. I like that sometimes. But there are other times where I enjoy substance to the things that I watch, like the movies and things like that. And one of my first point, I guess, would be that a lot of the Marvel movies, if not all of them, are just mindless shit happening. I'd find it acceptable if it was once in every couple of movies or so, maybe a 2-to-1 ratio, with the 2 being mindless shit and 1 being an actual coherent story. And that's just really not the case, because a lot of the times it's just mindless fighting over a story that vaguely makes sense, if at all. So that would be my first point with that. The second thing I'd have to say about them is, well, how about I continue with the mindless nonsense shit? So basically, the last one that I saw that I thought had at least somewhat of some semblance of a story was the Doctor Strange movie, because that movie actually, because I didn't know much about, I had seen the animated version of that before on Netflix or whatever, but I didn't really know a lot about him. What I knew was from that animated thing and from the 90s Spider-Man thing, this animated show. So I didn't know too much going into it, but I felt like it was a pretty good introduction to the character, and they did what they could with it. And I thought that it being an introduction, I guess it makes sense that they would have to have a coherent story, but they didn't really do that with Amazing Spider-Man, although that was a Sony problem, so that's a separate thing. But yeah, I thought the Doctor Strange, I almost called it Wizard of Oz. Doctor Strange was the last one I saw, which was a recent one, so maybe they're changing. Last coherent thing going on with it. So I think my second point would be that there's too much shit going on. In which one was it? Age of Ultron, there's so much going on. If you look back to Spider-Man 3 with Sandman, Venom, and I guess Harry Osborn Goblin, that was too much in itself. That was too much stuff. But that's too many villains. I'm talking about with Age of Ultron, there were so many fucking robots that they were fighting. All these different robots, they're not even different, they're all the same. They're exactly the same. They're carbon copies of each other, just all fighting and flying around and all this shit. And it's why? I feel like it'd be more entertaining if they made it so that there was maybe some robots they're fighting, but Ultron was supposed to be this big bad guy. And that's another thing though, is that they made Ultron a complete copy of Tony Stark's attitude, which I guess made sense in the movie, maybe, because it basically read all about him. But, he's supposed to be, this. I feel like it would have worked better. I'm not trying to say, that everything needs to be accurate to the comics, because I'll get to that. But, I feel as if it would have made more sense if he was, this dark, just fucking evil-ass person, or robot, that just fucking hated everything and wanted everyone to die. That doesn't sell toys or get kids in the theater, so I guess we gotta watch out for that. But that was another thing. So I guess my third point would be that, my third point, I didn't really think about this. This isn't scripted like my normal videos, as you can probably tell. But I guess my third point would be that everything doesn't need to be a sequel. All these movies, what they do is they build the first movie, Avengers, the first one, except it's made not necessarily to be a standalone film, but to just set up the next movie. Like Avengers, like before the Avengers, the rabbit's being stupid. Can you stop, please? Hey. Thank you. Before the Avengers came out, after the credits or whatever, they would show what's his name, Samuel L. Jackson, running up to these people and go, the Avengers Initiative, and they would talk about it, and that would be it. That's okay, because they weren't necessarily setting up the next movie. They were just like hinting at this thing that was going to happen. But now that they've gotten to the Avengers movies, and like the other ones, the subsequent movies that they're doing alongside them, like X-Men movies, they're just building these movies to set up the next one and not be their own complete story. Like, none of these movies has like a complete resolution to them. They just end and they're like, oh, wait for the next one. And then you see the next one, it's like, oh, wait for the next one. Like, there's no value to it if I'm just going to have to see the next one to understand the resolution to it. And then they barely develop the resolution in the next film, if at all. So there's really no point. Because it's like if I made a TV show, and, well, that's not a good example because they always do cliffhangers in TV shows. But that's like if I was telling someone a story, right? And I left out a bunch of points in the story that were necessary to fully understand it. I told you come back tomorrow and I'll fill you in on the rest of it. You come back and then I don't even fully explain what was happening in the first half of what I told you. So it's pointless to even bother engaging with it because you're not ever going to fully understand it unless you go through and look at all these pointless everything. Like, there's so much pointless shit in these movies. Like, I don't understand. Like, they could just build a story and flush it out and make it complete. But they don't want to because sequels make money. It's Marvel. People understand that they're just doing this for money at this point. I mean, that's what the end goal is in movies, is to make money. But there's a lot of people that make movies that make them to convey a message and stuff. And these movies don't do that. Like I said, there is a part of me that enjoys the mindless shit, but there's also a part of me that enjoys like an actual thought-provoking film. And I don't feel like I'll ever get that from a Marvel movie. I'm not expecting to get that from a Marvel movie, but it'd be nice to get it because then it would make me feel like my money was spent worthwhile on something worthwhile. And then, so that's basically it for that. What I was going to say, just as a side note, was that people need to stop being anal about everything being accurate to the comic books, because if you read all the comics, right? Like, you read it, you saw the resolution of the storyline, you read through all the arcs. Why would you want to go see a film adaptation of it that's 100% accurate to what you've already seen? Like, I get it, you get to see stuff in action, but it's not like a book where you have to imagine everything in your head. You get to see pictures for it. So it's not like you don't get any visuals. It's pretty easy to just read it and go, that was cool, and then be done. You don't need 100% accurate adaptation because then there's really no point to go see it. And while they should take some from the source material, they should be allowed to take liberties with it and make it their own thing. That's what a director's job is if they're making an adaptation, is to take the source material, stay somewhat loyal to the base of the source material, but make it their own thing because they need to make their own story out of it. It can end the same way, but it doesn't necessarily have to follow the same exact arcs. And there's no way you're going to fit like a 50 comic book story into like an hour and 30 minute 2 hour movie. Like, that's just not, you're never going to get everything in there that people want that are so anal about the comics. So that's it for that. So basically, there's never really anything coherent about the story. There's not a lot of like, there's too much shit going on. They're only setting up the next movie, and people need to stop being anal about the fucking being accurate to the comics. I'm sorry if you can hear the rabbit like doing whatever it's doing. I mean, I can't really do anything about that. It's like running around and shit. So sorry if that was like a problem during the video. And I was just rambling, but I just wanted to like talk about this. So remember Discord, and
Thank you for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.